We've seen bears in Magic before, but what if our commander made every bear bigger and drew us a bunch of cards at the same time? That's exactly what Beorn does best. When the bears start brawling, your opponents start falling. Hi everyone, I'm Full Harmonicon and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the new king of mono green bears. Move over Ayula, there's a new bear beatdown commander in town. He's a lord, he's a card draw engine, and he turns just about any creature into an honorary member of the bear army. It's time for Bear Force 2 The Hobbit Boogaloo with Beorn the Fierce. And if you love static buffs to all your bears, turning non-bear creatures into bears, and then drawing a whole lot of cards, this deck is for you. Beorn is a 6/6 bear shapeshifter warrior with trample for 5 mana, and he has 2 abilities. First, each other bear we control gets +2/+2. Then, at the beginning of combat on our turn, we put a trample counter on up to 1 target creature we control. That creature becomes a bear in addition to its other types. Then, if we control 3 or more bears, we draw 2 cards. That means every bear on board gets an immediate buff. When combat comes around, we can turn another creature into a bear, give a trample, and, provided we have 3 bears, draw 2 cards to keep our hand fueled. That creature stays a bear, so Beorn can slowly recruit the rest of our board into the furry frontline. If you enjoy synergy-focused commander breakdowns like this, hit that subscribe. They happen every week. The strategy here is super straightforward. First, we get bears onto the board while ramping towards our bigger and better bears. Then, we get Beorn online, buffing our entire board, handing out trample counters, and drawing cards to pull us ahead of our opponents. And finally, we win the way any respectable bear deck should, by swinging in with a massive army of furry, trampling threats. Let's talk about the meat of this deck, the bears. First, we want all the 2-mana 2/2 bears we can get. Grizzly bears, Bolduvian bears, bear cub, forest bear, and runeclaw bear look fairly ordinary, but with Beorn out, each is suddenly a 2-mana 4/4. They help us reach the 3 bear requirement early and become real threats later on. Ashcoat bear gives us the same basic body at instant speed, letting us hold up mana or surprise an opponent. Wilson, Refined Grizzly, is a legendary 2/2 bear with a frankly silly collection of keywords, which become even better when Beorn makes Wilson bigger. Evercoat Ursine gives us something close to card advantage. It hides away 2 cards and lets us cast them when it deals combat damage to a player. Beorn also helps it trample through blockers. Our Bear Cup might be just a baby, but once it starts connecting, it can summon more bears from the top of our deck straight onto the battlefield. Dragon's Guard Bear is more resilient because it can regenerate itself, while Druid's Familiar uses Soul Bond to make itself and another creature bigger. Owl Bear and Striped Bear are bigger bears that draw a card when they enter. Vivian's Grizzly gives us a repeatable way to look for creatures from the top of our library. Then, at the top of the curve, Copper Host Crusher is enormous and has hexproof. Little Bear, Ordinary Bear, and Gigantic Big Bear are all incredible inclusions from the new Hobbit set, with each bear getting a little bigger and a little scarier as we move up the curve. Surrak and Goreclaw are just insane here. It gives our other creatures trample, makes our other non-token creatures enter with an extra +1/+1 counter, and gives that creature haste. Bear tokens go a very long way when our commander is giving each of them +2/+2. Dancing from Dark to Dawn might be the craziest bear card from the new Hobbit set. It buffs our creatures as we play more creatures, and whenever a land enters under our control, we create a bear token. It rewards us for doing something the deck already wants to do. Yes, please. Mother Bear is a 2/2 bear that we can exile from our graveyard to create 2 more 2/2 bears, giving us extra value after it's been removed. Caller of the Claw is excellent insurance against a board wipe, letting us rebuild with bear tokens after our non-token creatures die. It can also create a monstrous amount of bears after several combat trades. Ayula's Influence and Bearscape both give us activated abilities that create more bear tokens, helping us rebuild or keep growing our board. finally, Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, creates extra bear tokens from a land slot. Beorn is already going to draw us a bunch of cards, but when it comes to card draw, more is better. Realm Walker lets us look at the top card of our library and cast bears from there. Thanks to Changeling, it also counts as a bear. Beast Whisperer and Guardian Project both keep the cards coming as we cast creatures or have them into the battlefield. Beast Whisperer can even become another bear through Beorn, adding one more buffed up body to our army. Vanquish's Banner also draws us cards whenever we cast a bear, while giving all our bears another +1/+1. Between the banner and Beorn, even our smallest bears become genuinely threatening. Return of the Wild Speaker, Rishkar's Expertise, and Season of Gathering each draw cards based on our biggest creature's power while offering their own upside or flexibility. With Beorn starting as a 6/6, these can refill our hand really quickly. Shamanic Revelation draws us a card for every creature we control, and it can gain us a bunch of life if our board is large enough. Garruk's Uprising grants our creatures trample and draws us a card whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters. With Beorn on the battlefield, that includes basically every bear in the deck. Bears also have some great ways to interact with opponents. Ayula, Queen Among Bears, obviously makes an appearance. She can place +1/+1 counters on our bears, but more importantly, she lets our increasingly large creatures fight opposing creatures whenever another bear enters. Masked Vandal and Chomping Changeling both count as bears thanks to Changeling, and they can help us deal with problematic artifacts and enchantments. Rampaging Yaoguai can destroy a bunch of artifacts and enchantments when it enters, and it becomes a huge threat if we put plenty of mana into X. Fade from History gives every player a bear token, but wipes away all artifacts and enchantments. That token is a small price for us, especially when ours get buffed by Beorn. Contest of Claws lets one of our bears deal damage to another creature. Then we discover based on excess damage. If that excess is 2, there's a pretty good chance we discover yet another bear. Ram Through and Tail Swipe both take advantage of our oversized creatures, allowing them to fight or deal their damage directly to an opposing threat. Then we have efficient green staples like Nature's Claim, Return to Nature, Heritage Reclamation, and Beast Within, giving us flexible answers when bear-based removal isn't quite enough. We're in green, so ramp is not a problem. Goreclaw, Terror of Qal Sisma, reduces our creature spells with power 4 or greater by 2 mana, including our commander and several larger bears. Whenever Goreclaw attacks, it also buffs our creatures and gives them trample. Werebear is a mana dork that also happens to be a bear, which is exactly the kind of overlap this deck wants. Studious First Year is a bear that also happens to be a rampant growth. A creature that advances both our board and our mana is super perfect here. Beorn, Reluctant Host, lets us cast Till Intend early, helping us play an additional land. Later, Beorn can arrive as another big bear, so the card stays useful at different stages of the game. The Earth King comes down with a 4/4 bear token, and whenever one or more of our creatures with power 4 or greater attacks, we search our library for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Because our commander turns small bears into 4/4s, that attack trigger should be very easy to activate. Then we round things out with Nature's Law, 3 Visits, Cultivate, and Kodoma's Reach, helping us reach 5 mana for Beorn and the top end of our deck. We also have a few lands that help the game plan along. Modal double-faced lands are always useful in monocolored decks because they can be lands when we need mana and spells when we don't. Balaged Recovery gets an important card back from our graveyard. Colony Ambush and Bridgeworks Battle can each be played as a land or used as a fight spell, depending on what we need at the time. Turn Timber Symbiosis lets us dig through the top of our library for a creature and can even make that creature enter with additional counters. Castle Garenbrig and 3 Tree City both give us some extra ramps tabled onto lands. 3 Tree City is especially exciting once we've built up a proper bear army. Beorn the Fierce feels like a huge upgrade for Bear Kindred decks. He makes our entire army bigger, hands out trample, and most importantly, keeps the cards flowing while we beat down the table. I'm always a fan of built-in card draw in the command zone, and Beorn gives bears exactly what they needed to keep doing bear things without running out of gas. The deck is simple to understand, and honestly, sometimes Commander doesn't need to be more complicated than playing a forest, casting a bear, and making that bear absolutely massive. Thanks so much for watching. If this breakdown helped you, hit that like, subscribe for more synergy-focused Commander content, and leave a comment with a card you think I missed. Channel members help vote on future videos, and you can find the full deck list along with my TCG Player affiliate link down below. Consider watching another breakdown on screen, and until next time, may all your bears be huge.